Hi, welcome back to On Air. I'm Klara Syrewicz. Yes, the second Trump presidency is upon us and we'll try to make sense of it after our report. For those who decided to withdraw and sign themselves for the next 4 years, here's a reminder that other countries are still out there along with interesting news to follow. Stay tuned and give your mind a little rest. You know that joke where two Mossad agents and a cardinal walk into a bar? Well, not exactly a bar, but a hacking company. They ask for the special, by which they mean information about Wagner mercenaries, but instead they get the Italian president's bathroom selfie. Well, that's not exactly what happened, but it's close enough. Italy is still making sense of its latest hacking scandal, which involves corrupt Interior Ministry workers opening state security databases to a Milanese private investigative firm. The company made off with information on thousands of individuals, including key politicians like President Sergio Mattarella and former Prime Minister Matteo Renzi. But for months, the peeping Toms were being wiretapped by state investigators. To complicate matters further, the company's hackers met with two Israeli operatives asking for financial dirt on Russian targets, intelligence that was supposed to be passed on to the Vatican. A bit mind-boggling, right? Phew, but at least it was a rogue company, not the democratically elected government of an EU country harassing and snooping on its own elected officials or scanning their finances. No, because that happened right here in Poland. Remember Pegasus? The famous Israeli zero-click spyware system? As many as 600 individuals were targeted by the former Polish Law and Justice government between 2017 and 2022. For the past weeks, a parliamentary investigative committee has been collecting depositions from dozens of its victims. Under the Law and Justice Party, known in Poland under its acronym PiS, many government agencies became highly politicized in a process that resembled and openly took example from the anti-democratic backslide in Hungary. In 2017, PiS secretly bought Pegasus using money from a special Ministry of Justice fund intended to assist crime victims, a purchase that was both deliberately obfuscated and ultimately illegal. Under the Interior Minister's supervision, the surveillance efforts were carried out, among others, by the Central Anti-Corruption Bureau, a body that could have easily dropped the anti from its name since it was used as a private law enforcement agency. At least 30 political and civil society figures were affected, including the mayor of Warsaw and opposition lawyers. The principle of attorney confidentiality had been additionally breached in those cases. And finally, the crown jewel among those targets, the opposition party's strategy chief for the 2019 parliamentary election. This was nothing short of a Polish Watergate, but one that had the chance to influence the vote's outcome since the scandal first came to light more than a year later. Funny enough, PiS members also decided to spy upon their own prime minister, whose dodgy financial deal-making may have prompted them to keep a steady hand on his fortune. Or they just liked the sight of him so much they needed to film him with his phone camera while he was away. To add another layer to this crab cake, the Central Anti-Corruption Bureau didn't buy licenses to use Pegasus directly, but went through a private company called Matic. Matic received state money for the purchase, the equivalent of nearly 6 million euros, and an additional 2 million euros as a fee for services rendered, meaning, I guess, for physically bringing the licenses from Israel, as well as for tests and training. This is ingenious. I'll have to try that on my co-workers. I'll offer to buy them coffee. Once I hand it to them, I will get a refund for the coffee, but they will also pay me for the trouble of bringing it, plus a fee for tasting their coffee, because maybe it's not as good, and for teaching them how to drink it. And I might even snitch on some of them to their spouses saying they ordered whipped cream while on a diet. Yes, even that, because as it turns out, Matic had extensive links to former Polish communist secret police and Russian state security. So there was always a way to bring in even more money by making a phone call to some old friends in the FSB. And what a treat for the Kremlin that would have been, enabling it to blackmail Polish politicians or sow conflict within the government. In any case, even though all this seems too big and blatant to be true, prosecuting the people involved in this scandal is proving very difficult. 3 judges appointed by peace to Poland's Constitutional Tribunal, the equivalent of the US Supreme Court, have blocked the inquiry into their party's abuse of power. Holding those responsible to account may take years, and if political winds were to change, you can bet any prosecution would be stopped right away. Incidentally, there's been a recent report of the Trump campaign hiring a private surveillance company to spy on the Democrats' selection committee, or so says a whistleblower. If it proves to be true, what will come of that information? Probably nothing, I'm afraid. And since we have inevitably returned to the topic of the day, let us offer you a quick reminder of what has been the most hacked and possibly the most eccentric election campaign in US history. Jump with me onto this garbage truck and enjoy the show.
Take a look at what happened.
The 2024 US election cycle has been anything but ordinary. The race for the White House took a dark and shocking turn this summer when former President Donald Trump faced his first assassination attempt at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. 2 months later, another attempt at Trump's life was thwarted before a shot could be fired at a golf resort in Florida. Another unexpected development came when President Joe Biden, citing health concerns and declining public confidence, announced he would not seek a second term. In a historic move, he tipped Vice President Kamala Harris to represent the Democratic Party as its nominee.
I accept your nomination to be president.
This handover shifted the dynamics of the campaign significantly. Kamala Harris was not the only first Black and Asian woman to run at the top of a major party's ticket, but also faced the challenge of stepping out from Biden's shadow and making her own mark on the national stage. Donald Trump's mounting legal troubles have cast a shadow over his run for office, with several indictments against him related to alleged interference in the 2020 election and accusations of financial misconduct. This, however, failed to sway in his base, who were happy to support a convicted felon. As Hurricane Milton struck Florida in late September, laying waste to large swaths of the state and displacing thousands of residents, Harris and Trump both suspended their campaigns temporarily to visit affected areas. Harris emphasized federal assistance efforts, while Trump focused on criticizing bureaucratic delays in disaster relief.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The debate between the two candidates was the most anticipated event of the campaign,
Kamala Harris.
with polls indicating the Democratic candidate's advantage. Harris aimed to present herself as a progressive voice ready to carry on Biden's legacy while pushing for new reforms.
Nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America.
Trump, however, was as combative as ever, using the opportunity to bring up Harris's lack of executive experience, as well as the alleged dietary preferences of illegal immigrants.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets.
With assassination attempts, major policy shifts, natural disasters, and legal entanglements at play, this election was certainly one for the history books.
Welcome back. We have Bartosz Węglarczyk with us.
Hi.
Hello, great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
So that was a roller coaster of an election, and now we have the post-mortem.
Yes, but everybody's alive.
Well, actually, someone is hardly alive, and maybe that's Joe Biden, and maybe that was what cost the Democrats the White House, because his insistence on running, despite his clear incapacity, was a problem, as we know. Do you agree with this diagnosis?
I think there were many reasons that Kamala Harris lost for, but I think Joe Biden is definitely one of them. And I think that she had just over 120 days to run the campaign, and that wasn't enough. She was not that famous before, even being vice president. And I think she didn't have, their staff didn't have a clear idea about her program. And I think she didn't introduce herself properly to the nation. At the same time, I think that if Joe Biden ran himself, Democrats would still lose. It is Joe Biden's fault that he ran at all. And a lot of people remember that in 2020, when he became the president, he promised the nation that he would introduce the new generation of Democratic Party leaders, and he didn't. He thought that he would be the leader again in 2024. I think the other reason is that the Democratic Party didn't understand, which is surprising, but they didn't understand the pulse of the nation. They didn't understand the key topics of the campaign. And they thought that the persona of Donald Trump would be the main topic of the campaign. Is he fit for the office or unfit for the office? But we found out that the Bill Clinton, as always, was right. Economy is stupid. Economy was everything in this election. And she didn't talk about the economy enough. And that's how Donald Trump won.
So speaking of the economy, one of the scariest aspects of this presidency for EU countries is tariffs.
Is it the scariest one? I thought the nuclear war might be the scariest one, but you know.
Well, I mean, we'll get to that later, obviously. That's the first part of scary. It's 20%, 10%, 20% tariffs on all goods promised by Trump, but also 100% tariffs on all vehicles. So hello, Germany, with the government that has just collapsed. And obviously, congratulations to Elon Musk. So do you think that means Europe waits in line to have a recession now?
You know, the problem with Donald Trump is that we have no idea what he will do as the president. We don't know the people around him. I think we have to wait for the nominations for, you know, the secretaries, the secretaries of state, the, you know, secretary of defense, trade representative. We have no idea who will run the policies for him. I understand he was talking a lot about the tariffs, the 10% or maybe 20% tariffs, import tariffs. But you have to remember one thing, the same Elon Musk who will win if there is a 100% tariff on foreign cars, because just so happens Elon Musk produces cars, the same Elon Musk uses the foreign products to build his own business. And you cannot fly to the moon with Elon Musk without Chinese parts. So I wonder if Elon Musk will be happy with the 10% tariff. And I wonder if Americans will be happy when they find out that most of the stuff they buy is made in China. I don't know what to expect. I think this is the key problem with the Trump presidency, is that we have no idea what to expect. One thing is what he says, and that's one thing, but what he does, we don't know.
Well, actually, you wrote on your blog that one of the best predictors of Trump's actions are his personal gains. Of course. Like if he is set to profit from something financially, he will make that decision. So,
you know, it's funny for me when I listen to Polish politicians discussing how to build relations with Trump. That's easy. That's an easy part. Give him a plot in the center of Warsaw and allow him to build, you know, a huge building, a skyscraper in the middle of Warsaw, and name it Donald Trump Tower, and we're fine. We have perfect relations.
Warsaw Donald Trump
Yes,
Tower.
Warsaw Donald Trump Tower, exactly. His personal gain is what motivates him all the time. He's in a huge personal debt. He and his companies altogether own $1.8 billion. To both the state authorities and to the federal government. He needs the money, and he will get them, you'll see.
So now we get to the second scary part, the nuclear war part. Trump promised to end the war in Ukraine in one day, possibly by forcing Kiev to give up its territories and stopping aid. However, Dmitry Medvedev said, and I'm quoting, "The election won't change anything for Russia because both candidates reflect the bipartisan consensus that our country must be defeated."
Yes.
So what do you make of future relations between the US and Russia?
Well, Donald Trump never said that Russia has to be defeated in Ukraine. He never said so. Maybe he might think so, but he never said so. We have no idea what his Ukraine policy will be. And I'm, you know, circling again to what I said before. Everything depends on the people around him, the so-called adults. We call them adults because these are adult people who take care of a child. and of the child.
The breaks.
Yes, and the gatekeepers. And we'll see who will be the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, the CIA director. There are rumors that Mike Pompeo might become the Secretary of State. If that happens, I'm pretty sure that the policy towards Ukraine will basically stay the same, basically. And Trump will not end the war in 24 hours. There is no way for him to end the war in 24 hours. It's not going to happen. Does it mean that Trump will meet Putin as the president? Maybe. We know he was in contact with Putin. He doesn't want to answer questions about how many meetings, how many phone calls with Putin he had, but it's possible that they will meet. And of course, Trump can make a proposal to Zelensky and to the Ukrainian authorities to end the war. Well, of course, the problem is that the Ukrainians have to agree to that. And I don't see Ukrainians to agree to losing the war.
7 years ago, when Trump was first elected, Chancellor Angela Merkel said, "We must really take our destiny into our own hands alone as Europeans."
And we didn't.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now Donald Tusk, our Prime Minister, is repeating the same appeal. Do you think that this will rally Europe together and potentially help Ukraine?
No, I hope so. I think we have to understand that we cannot depend on our security for the Americans. And I'm saying this as a person who's extremely supportive of transatlantic alliance. And I think it's important for Americans to stay in Europe. But in the end, it's their decision. If they decide to leave Europe, and leave, by leaving, I mean not physically, but by leaving, I mean a situation in which Trump says that he will not defend Europe. We have to defend ourselves, and we have to think that way. And I think European Union should move forward to better alliance, and I think NATO should be more European-centric. If it happens, if there are leaders in Europe that will push us forward, that would be fantastic, but I don't see them at the moment. We have elections coming in Germany early next year. We have elections in France coming, presidential elections. If Le Pen becomes the president of France, will she push for closer Europe? I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bartek.
I'm trying to be optimistic, but at the moment it's pretty difficult.
Thank you, Bartek. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
And thank you as well. We'll be back next week with some surprising information from Azerbaijan and a report on Belarusian repressions in Russia, of all places. See you then.